So here's the issue I was running into with my transducer mount for my Old Town Topwater 106. Obviously, the universal transducer mount that comes with this does not accommodate the Garmin Striker 4s well at all. I'll be honest, it's one of the things that's a little lacking with the boat. But so I did go online, and everybody recommends the Navarre Kayak you know, transducer mount, and to be honest with you, it's a really good mount. I don't want this to seem like I'm knocking their product whatsoever. I've actually bought a lot of other products from them. They have a great floating prop nut, a great floating prop wrench, and so on and so forth. And he makes some really great products. And honestly, this mount here that you're looking at, if you're looking for a quick and easy fix and you don't want to go doing the DIY route, which we're talking about in this video, by all means, I think, he's got the best product right now on the market. And I highly encourage you to go to his website and check out some of his third-party pieces he makes. They're really great. So again, I don't want this to seem like I'm knocking his products at all. This is just something that I found that was bugging me and how I chose to kind of correct it with this project. But in addition, I also know that this is not the proper nut. This is not the proper assembly for the Garmin Striker 4. It's just what I had on hand in my garage. I just quickly put it together to illustrate the issue because I'm in the process of building an alternative solution. So but you can kind of see here, pardon that, you can kind of see here that the transducer is a little higher than I would have liked, right? Even so it kind of sits a little higher. It's a little proud, right? It kind of sticks out still. If I was to slide the board across here, for example, you'll see right away that the transducer does nudge that board. And so what had happened to me is I'd taken my boat out and I had inadvertently, when taking the boat off the bars, knock the transducer down like that, and so it was kind of facing that way in the water. Now I'm lucky that I pedal, pardon me, the 106, because the 106 happens to have the transducer hole right above the transducer itself. So how I fixed that when I was on the water, because my transducer was completely screwed, the imagery and everything just was out of whack. I took the top half of a rod and actually pushed it down through this hole and managed to push my transducer back up and essentially save my fishing day in terms of electronics that way. But I know that I believe for the 120, the scupper hole isn't right here; it's further back, and so if I'd been pedaling the 120, well, I would have had either to go back into shore and correct the transducer, or just live without for the day. And also, I'm always very concerned about clipping this, when I'm taking my kayak out. I happen to put it on top of my van, but I think the same problem is still there. You could clip a tailgate with it, you could clip crossbars with it. This is really bugging me, the danger there and the danger to the transducer it presents. If it clipped it the wrong way, you could break something and whatnot. So I really want to get this lower. This is not a side imaging unit. I don't have any concerns that way. So really, I want to get it a little bit lower. I know that the water on the actual boat, comes well up to this hole here, which is significantly lower than there. So, even if you're to lower it, it's still in the water. I'm not worried about that whatsoever. So basically, yeah, that's the problem I was running into with this particular setup. Okay, so what we're looking at now is an exploded diagram of the Transducer Scupper mount for my Old Town Topwater 106 using the Garmin Striker 4. This will also work for the Garmin Striker 4 CV. So what you got here is the transducer for the Garmin Striker, unmodified. No changes have been made to it. Again, you can work the CV. What this is a 1-inch thick piece of a marine starboard. I had that kicking around here in the shop, but basically I've cut it down to about 1 inch by 1 inch. The idea is that it will fit under there. Now I may end up using this longer piece to be kind of going across like that, and I'll show you why once I get to the actual installation on the boat. Now, why this piece is here is because once this is inside the scupper hole is going to come to about there, right? It's probably going to be in line with the edge of this piece of plastic, and it's going to go across there. Now, it's kind of in there pretty snug, and if you were to happen to hit a rock or something, I don't want any undue pressure coming down too far and maybe snapping some of the plastic or whatnot. So I'm actually going to glue this to the bottom of this transducer like that. And that will actually sit between the boat and it. It'll maintain a certain more level presentation to the transducer, and also, again, protect it. And I'm going to be using this marine goop to adhere it to it. I've used the automotive goop before. It's been fantastic. The great thing about this stuff is that it's very adhesive, very strong bond, which is really nice. The marine one, obviously is made for marine, which is why I want to pick it up. This is going to be in the water. But, again, like I said, very strong bond. But the nice thing about it is when you do want to take off, say, these pieces and they're stuck on there, it's malleable enough that with enough effort, you can actually get that piece off and you don't have to worry about it. So it's fantastic in that respect. So really that's the top part there. And then when we get into the actual shaft and the connections therein, what this is I believe it's a 3/4 inch piece of tubing that is actually used for lawn irrigation, and it's a very hard plastic. It's harder than PVC, I find. It's got this nice threaded end, and we'll get to that in a minute. But basically, all I did is I got these 8/32 bolts, 1 1/4 inch long. So that's all you need. And this is why you need 1 1/4 inches. 1 1/4 inch is the perfect length for this whole installation. Getting this will mean there's no cutting of the bolt needed. It'll fit inside of the scupper hole perfectly. It's just the ideal length. And so really this just slides right in there like that in the long run. And we'll see that in the installation of this top part and how I assembled that. But what I've also done is I've cut out a U-shape here. This is for the wire from your transducer. Now you could theoretically put this tube in here without having done that, but it does start to pinch the wire that's inside of here. And it does cause a little bit of a problem. And so by having this here, you can kind of see that the wire doesn't get affected, right? So even if this was to move or whatnot, it's never going to pinch that wire and, break your expensive transducer. And so what we have beside it here are the actual, basically the actual washers that come with the transducer, stainless steel washers. And what they're going to do is serve to make up the gap between this tube and these two side pieces. And so when you put this in here, you can notice there's some play in there. Well, these simple washers are the perfect size to go into here and essentially fill that gap. And when you do that, it'll become very snug. This will become very snug. The play is gone, and there's no unintentional flexing of these pieces whatsoever. It works fantastic. And then I have a simple flat washer here that I've used. Basically, I had intended to use, a locking nut on that, but the width of this was just too long, and you'll see that in the installation. I'll cut a couple photos of it, but when I use this, I actually can't push it down into the transducer scupper hole. That's how tight and snug this entire installation is. But if I use this flat one, I can get it all the way in. And some people are going to say, but you know what, I don't want to use, I'd prefer to use a locking nut. This is going to come loose, it's going to come off and whatnot. But you'll see when we do the installation that this actually is so snug into the actual scupper hole that there's no way for it to come off. Even if it was to loosen a little bit, it would just end up rubbing or hitting against the edge or the wall, pardon me, of the actual scupper, and it won't come off the nut. So I'm really not too worried about that. I've discovered with these Old Town boats, they do need a little bit of regular TLC. I like to tighten down the screws and whatnot on my rudder on a regular basis after every trip or second trip. So this will be no different. It'll just be part of the maintenance. But yeah, as much as I would have loved to have this nylon locking nut on there, it's just not going to fit. But I really don't need it because I think this is really gonna fit well. And so at the other end, what I've got here is this another piece of marine starboard that I've cut. I took a 2-inch hole saw and cut that out. And then I notched out a piece on the side there for the wire. I put a couple drain holes in it. And then I took a 3/4 inch Forstner bit, and I'll show you what that is, and if you're not familiar. Just 1 second. And basically drilled out the middle hole with this Forstner bit. Now, what that does is it's the perfect size for this tubing. And in the long run, what's going to happen is this is going to go onto the top side of your boat. So this is what you're going to see from the top side. And you'll see about a 1/4 inch kind of poking out, something like that, right? Now, I've got this 1-inch threaded cap that fits right on there perfectly. And what that's going to do is allow me to tighten down the whole system, with my hands, no tools required. And I really like that idea because if I've got my boat off and I'm prepping it to go in the water, for example, and I find out afterwards that you know, the whole system's a little bit loose, I can just grab the scupper or the transducer beneath, reach over, I can grab this in my other hand, I can tighten it down right on the beach or right in the parking lot, wherever I happen to be. I don't have to worry about bringing special tools with me, even on the water. If I just want to double check and give it a quick twist. So I think that's going to be a great solution. I'm just going to spray paint this black later so you can't tell. I mean, this is a little rough, but you know, it's kind of hidden. It's hidden from view. You don't really see it. And really, this is it. These are all the pieces that you're going to need to put this together. Now, a couple things. So some sizing. First of all, obviously, if you're not using a 1/2 inch marine board, some of the dimensions I'm about to give you are going to change, right? You're going to have to factor that in a little bit. But basically, this tube here is 5 inches and 11/16 in total length from end to end. This center of this hole to the edge here on the threads is 5 inches and 3/16. And so your mileage is going to vary. I mean, this again is the Topwater, Old Town Topwater PDL 106. If you're pedaling the 120, you're going to have to double check on these measurements. I can't guarantee that it won't be a little different. All the boats have a little bit different characteristics. If you are paddling or anything else, a different brand of boat, you're obviously going to have to, experiment a little bit with this, right? But these tubes are, $1 and change up here in Canada where I am. And so, you could buy 5 or 6 of these at a foot long and cut them in half and try different things and have lots of spares. Do yourself a favor, run into Home Depot for $1 is really not fun. So buy a bunch of these, cut them up, experiment a little bit, and find the size that works for you. And that's it. These are all the parts. This is what we're going to be building. So what you're looking at here is the bottom of the boat and the transducer, along with that piece of starboard put in place. This is all just dry fitted. It's very snug. It doesn't move very easily at all. I mean, I can move it if I really push it, but you really got to pull on that. You can see here the nut that I was talking about inside of there, right? It's very snug inside of there. I mean, if this was to come loose, this nut is not going to just fall off. There's really no room for it to slip off. If we go on over to the other side here, you'll notice that the screw head is just as snugly fitted into there. This is really tight. There's really little chance that it's going to pop out. If we had been using the locking nut, this would be almost another 1/4 inch up, and then we'd end up having the same problem where the transducer is clipping. So basically this is how it looks. I haven't yet glued this piece of starboard to this piece. That will come a little bit later. I just wanted to dry fit it, get this out on video, and I'll be doing that shortly. So what we're looking at now is a board just showing you the gap once this transducer is installed this way. And if we get a little lower, you can see there's about a 1/16 of an inch, maybe a little more, once this transducer is in place. So that means that this transducer, you can see the light going through there, is well beneath the two sides and is well protected inside the hull. This should make sure that it's not going to get clipped by any truck beds or that kind of thing. Any crossbars for sure, and whatnot. So it is definitely nice and flush in there. I just got this extra camera in here to give a little light, but it is definitely nice and flush in here. These sides are going to protect it on either side now. It's well beneath those, but still within, going to be in the water and still function properly. All right, so what we're looking at now is obviously the top of the boat here. This is, when we were looking at the exploded diagram, this is that round piece of starboard that I cut out along with the cap above it. You can ignore the hole here. This is where I have my Hobie through hull kit. I'm just currently working on the boat, so I've taken it out. But this is what it looks like. I mean, I'm going to be spray painting that white cap black, so it'll kind of blend in a little bit better. The great thing about it is if you ever need to tighten it down, you just reach in there. You can tighten it down. You'd obviously want to grab the transducer below, whether you want to wrap your arm around it or whatnot. But it lets you kind of tighten everything down and get it even more snug. You can see here the hole for the wire behind there is kind of cut out. And that's it. That's the installation from above. So pretty simple little setup. So a small update at the end of this video. I elected to go with the wider piece of starboard. A couple of reasons. One, there's a bit of a gap in there, so the smaller piece would sit a little bit lower. This enables my transducer to be more flush with the bottom of the boat and of course of the lake. It does give me more room. As you can see now, I have actually added the amazing goop to it. So it gives me more room to put some of the adhesive on there. I can fit a little bit more onto the piece. It also does create a bit more surface friction. Since this is really just a friction fit system, it creates more surface friction and allows it to hold on hopefully a little bit better. It still fits under the board exactly like the other video. It still has the same amount of space and everything. So yeah, that's it for the video. I certainly hope this is going to help somebody. If you're out there and this gives you some ideas and you can use it, that'd be fantastic. Take care.